The Tao that can be told is not the eternal Tao. Like any philosophy or religion that has been around for a long time, Taoism is difficult to summarize in a way that will please all scholars and Taoists. And so I will simply speak of how some Taoist insights have enriched my life and may enrich yours. The first theme of Taoism is that you cannot think about ultimate truth, you must be it. One translation of the first line of the Tao Te Ching is, "He who speaks of the Tao does not understand the Tao." This is because the Tao is a state of being. It simply cannot be an object of thought. Lao Tzu in stanza 1 writes, "The Tao that can be told is not the eternal Tao. The name that can be named is not the eternal name." So the first insight is that Taoism encourages you to be the truth, not just think about it. The truth that is the Tao is impossible to think about anyway. He who speaks does not know, and he who knows does not speak. The Tao is beyond all limiting concepts. Now, of course, I know the intellect won't so easily give way, so if you must think of the Tao, then think of the Tao as being itself, not a form of being you can objectify. Being itself gives rise to time and space and sustains all things in time and space, but the Tao is not simply a being in time and space. Nor can I understand the Tao in the thinking about mode, since thinking about involves seeing things in time and space. So again, the main idea is that ultimate truth cannot be understood by the intellect, it must be lived. Now you might ask, well, if it's true that the Tao cannot be understood conceptually or scientifically, then why write a book about the Tao? Why are we speaking and thinking about that which cannot be thought or spoke about? Well, most of the words of the Tao Te Ching are not meant to convey objective truths, but to awaken you to a way of being and seeing. The Tao Te Ching nourishes the truth that you are. It awakens you to your deeper way of seeing and being, whereas other books create the illusion that you can have or think about ultimate truth. In this way, knowing Tao is more like art, music, than philosophy or science, though it's none of those. The words of the Tao awaken and energize instead of simply conveying information. It helps you feel love when others succeed instead of envy. The Tao breaks concepts instead of synthesizing new ones. It empties the mind instead of filling it. When it is in the room with you, and it always is, it enlivens you instead of pushing you out. So if you and I are in a room, I have to push you out of the chair to sit in it. But the Tao doesn't. The Tao is not competitive like that. When the master points to the moon, some people only look at her finger. The words of the Tao Te Ching are fingers pointing to the moon, not the moon itself. The Tao is like being aware of my hand instead of thinking about my hand, feeling my breath instead of thinking about my breath, feeling the being of the tree instead of thinking about the tree, swimming instead of thinking about swimming. The Taoists remind us again and again that the Tao that can be told is not the eternal Tao. We cannot understand it in the thinking about mode, science, logic, philosophy, reason. We can only be it. All definitions of the Tao only confuse you, and they give the illusion of understanding. The Tao cannot be a clear concept because it is not a concept. In short, the first insight is that you cannot think about ultimate truth. You must be it. Stanza 47 says, "The more you know, the less you understand." Theme 2 of Taoism is be empty as the Tao is empty. So empty your mind of all thoughts. Let your heart be at peace. Throughout the Tao Te Ching, you'll find this theme of emptiness. Mitchell notes, Stephen Mitchell that is, emptying your mind does not mean suppressing your thoughts, but stepping back from them. Insight into the Tao has nothing to do with the intellect and its abstractions. So emptiness is stepping back from your thoughts. But why is that important? Why is emptiness important? How do you empty? Well, consider this example. If I am a drug addict, my mind is filled with thoughts of my drug, and I see you through the lens of these thoughts. In fact, I cannot really see you because I see you merely as a means or an obstacle to getting my drug, or as a gray blob that is neither a means nor an obstacle. To see and love you, I need to empty my mind of those ideas flowing from my addictions, and I need to be free from those desires to some degree. This unfiltered way of seeing, free from desire and those addictive thoughts, that's love. Lao Tzu writes, "Free from desire, you realize the mystery. Caught in desire, you see only the manifestations." So I cannot see you when I see you through my desires, labels, and concepts. I must empty my mind to see and love. Stanza 3 says, "The master leads by emptying people's minds." When I am temporarily emptied of addictions, desires, labels, and concepts, all of a sudden I see you. You're so beautiful, infinitely mysterious and valuable. I no longer value you only if you are some use to me. No, it's awe-inspiring, awesome if you will. It's an experience in which I am amazed that you are at all. Your very being is incredible. It's Tao. It's beautiful, good. If I could just empty my mind of addictions, ideas, concepts, and runaway desires, oh, the worlds I could see. Infinity in a grain of sand. So the Taoists talk about this emptiness, and I cannot see you through an idea. The 11th stanza presents a beautiful way of explaining emptiness. We join spokes in a wheel, but it is the center hole that makes the wagon move. We make clay into a pot, but it is the emptiness inside that holds whatever we want. We hammer wood for a house, but it is the inner space that makes it livable. We work with being, but non-being is what we use. So I love this stanza. It shows how the emptiness of cups, doors, houses, windows, and wheels is what makes them useful. And this hints at a deeper truth about emptiness in the soul. It is a truth that mystics in all religions recognize. Neti Neti in India, the negative way in Dark Night in Judeo-Christian mysticism, and so on. The truth is that the idea of the Tao gets in the way of the Tao. And our ideas of God prevent us from knowing God. Concepts block us from living the truth that cannot be conceptualized. Let me give you another example from MacLeod's Understanding Asian Philosophy, an example of how to empty the mind. When he was in high school art class, the teacher instructed students to draw people from photos, but the drawings were really poor and they didn't look like the photos. They then turned the photos upside down and had students draw them. The students did much better. This is because, according to him, when the photos were upside down, they drew what they saw instead of preconceptions of what they should see. So flipping pictures upside down created a fasting or emptying of the mind. Flipping the photo emptied preconceived ideas of what a person should look like. So again, we are excellent when we empty our minds of preconceived ideas. So the Tao is a way of state of being, and one way to think about this way is as the way of emptiness. You can see what is before you, and you can use the natural propensities of a situation in a way that you cannot when you are imprisoned by your own concepts. I am no longer wandering in my own cage when I empty my mind. And there are many ways that traditions teach to enter this state of being in which your mind, quote-unquote, is empty. Filling your senses with nature paradoxically empties the mind of concepts, perhaps because nature is too dynamic for concepts. Many traditions use some form of meditation or prayer to enter this way of being, right? And there's more out there. Let's move to the third theme of Taoism. When your mind is empty, Wu Wei often arises. So Wu Wei is the third theme. Now, Wu Wei is doing by not doing, action and non-action. The idea of flow or being in the zone is somewhat like Wu Wei, though there's an important difference we'll look at in a minute. It is action without striving. So Wu Wei is not passivity. It refers to the experience in which the game plays the game, the poem writes the poem, and we can't tell the dancer from the dance. It's not passivity in the sense of doing nothing. It's the graceful state in which movement happens by itself, effortlessly, without any interference of the conscious will. So the great pianist, athlete, and poet know Wu Wei, as do you. Perhaps you experienced it while running, swimming, playing music, writing, praying, singing, meditating, or walking through nature. Practice not doing and everything will fall into place, writes Lao Tzu. So this sounds good, but how do you practice Wu Wei? Well, here's one suggestion. Whenever you are doing something, give it your full attention. Do the process well and don't worry about the product. Be present. Let your past and future drop away. And this emptying process gives rise to Wu Wei. If you are a piano player, you've learned the rules. Good. Play as you have learned, but also be present. Get out of the way and let the music play through you. The music is more than a set of rules that your conscious mind follows. There is a deeper, unconscious, and more organic intelligence that plays through you. You become the music. This is Wu Wei. There's a Buddhist story of how to make cloudy water still. Action and more effort will not help. They will only make the water dirtier. Straining and more effort are counterproductive. Becoming still is the key. Let the water settle itself. This too is Wu Wei, action by non-action. So Wu Wei seems to arise when I am empty. I get out of the way and I let the light shine through. The deepest learning is unlearning. Lao Tzu writes the following. A good traveler has no fixed plans and is not intent upon arriving. A good artist lets his intuition lead him wherever it wants. A good scientist has freed himself of concepts and keeps his mind open to what is. Thus, the master is available to all people and doesn't reject anyone. So when you are sage-like in Wu Wei, you are open to reality. You are available to all people, as Lao Tzu writes, because you are not attached to your ideas about them, whether they're Republican, Democrat, or what have you. Only then can you see them and love them. The mind categorizes, but it does not see. The intellect filters, but cannot just be. And so Wu Wei is not simply full attention or flow. It's not simply flow. It's full attention and flow in which you are also capable of, quote, being available to all people, quote, soft and flexible and loving. Hitler, for example, could be in flow, or Hitler could be in the zone, but he is not Tao. There's a subtle difference between Tao and flow because Tao involves intuiting the intrinsic value of other people. Again, you don't have to do anything, just be. You will still play the piano or sport, but your action now rests in silence, stillness, non-action, being itself. The Tao is darkness because the senses cannot detect it, but the Tao is light because it enlivens and enlightens. Finally, the last theme I'll mention is the inspirational descriptions of the master. We saw that the Tao is not a principle. It's not a sensory object or intellectual concept. It's not a scientific concept. And this is why Lao Tzu describes the master instead of giving us rules to follow. Imagine this human being, the master, not some rule. This approach is closest to mysticism and virtue ethics in the Western tradition. Now, I like this approach because the best lessons in my life were those which arose in the presence of a loving person. No words were spoken, but being in their presence broke all concepts and awakened me to deeper, more intuitive truths. The Tao. Being in the presence of loving people reduces anxiety, destroys attachment to concepts, and helps people see more clearly. The master that they describe in Taoism is just such a person. It's a moral exemplar. Gentle, loving, powerful but humble, present, harmonious with the Tao. Consider stanza 21. The master keeps her mind always at one with the Tao. That is what gives her her radiance. The Tao is ungraspable. How can her mind be at one with it? Because she doesn't cling to ideas. The Tao is dark and unfathomable. How can it make her radiant? Because she lets it. Since before time and space were, the Tao is. It is beyond is and is not. How do I know this is true? I look inside myself and see. That's Lao Tzu. So yes, you must look inside and see. Science, reason, philosophy, and thinking about won't help you here. Consider stanza 92. The master is not elated by praise nor discouraged by neglect. She goes her own way, yet she accepts help gratefully and has no pride in walking alone. She never has to make a decision. Decisions arise by themselves. She is like an actress who loves her role. The Tao is writing the script. That might remind you a bit of Stoicism there. So perhaps this master in Taoism is like Yoda in Star Wars. And that should not be surprising since George Lucas was inspired by Joseph Campbell, who had studied the myths, religions, and philosophies of the world. Yoda is humble but powerful. He is in harmony with the Logos, Tao, nature, force, God. But he also understands the dark side. Yoda is sometimes a hermit living serenely in the forest, but he is also concerned with political and social issues. He is concerned with the well-being of others. And Lao Tzu, too, has political advice in the Tao Te Ching, if you look carefully. Nor were Yoda and Lao Tzu dropouts, but they did take time out to clear the mind, to be the force, and then act with love and respect. So clearly, I think Lao Tzu and Xuan Tzu and other Taoists must have watched Star Wars and been inspired by it. So this concludes your very, very brief intro to Taoism. The dictionary definitions of Tao are misleading. Tao is a state of being that flows from the ineffable ground of being itself. Lao Tzu describes it, but he cannot prescribe it because it's not a set of rules or a rule that you can program into a computer. Lao Tzu describes the Tao as an emptying of the mind, as Wu Wei, and more. So for your first book, if you're interested, I recommend Stephen Mitchell's translation and commentary. It's a little pocket book. You can read it in one day. Thank you.